How was your week teaching?
Pretty chill, actually.
Was it?
Yeah,
Mine was pretty good too,
yeah,
you know.
and the kids, I mean, I know that you felt it as well, where there was this weird spot at maybe the beginning of October where you thought, why are all these like behaviors getting a little bit out of
That
control?
happened to you too?
Yeah, maybe you don't remember, but we
Yeah, we
talked
probably did
about it.
talk about it. I
Yeah, and
just forgot
I don't know
because,
if it was just it's that time of year. It's you know what it usually is. I think the kids get settled and then they go to test boundaries again.
dude, I think that's what it is. I mean, there have been definite moments where like I short out. Like my girlfriend was like, "Are you okay?" Because I think I was just staring there like Jack Nicholson in The Shining when he's just kind of like his eyes are half closed and he's just looking off in the distance. I think I had that look, and then I was like, "Yeah, I go, I'm fine. Everything's fine."
I'm
But
fine.
yeah, yeah, it's fine. And then you're just doing that and you're just like, but no one's home. And she honestly said to me, she goes, "I'm worried about you." But yeah, it's challenging. Drama's a weird thing to teach because like on one hand, I was like, oh, it's gonna be so much easier. But teaching like, is it five? Yeah, I have a homeroom and then I teach 5 classes a day. It's a little trickier to teach because I'm making up my own curriculum. And I'm still like following like there's other curriculums that I've gotten like you recommended a curriculum to me, but I'm still like this won't work with these kids. You know what I mean? You have to kind of like change it around. And so
Oh,
it's
100%.
interesting because I'm teaching all the stuff I've learned as an actor and as a comedian in LA, but sometimes you have to really like modify it for middle schoolers. So, I got into the problem of being like, you know what? For all 5 classes, I'm going to have them do short films. So I had all the classes doing short films and I taught them how to like write it and how to like shoot it and everything. And then I helped all of them edit it. And just today, it took like 4 weeks. It
Wow.
got done, but dude, I almost like snapped during that process. I was like, CEOs don't feel this much pressure.
I bet that if you go
It's
back and were to what they call backward plan,
I wouldn't do it.
well, backwards plan,
Yeah.
meaning like now that you've seen like all the spots that are going to
Mhm.
take a while to do, or because kids have to learn, hey, this is a wide shot, right?
Yeah.
Or this is a close up over the different shoulders, all that. If they're shooting the stuff
Yeah.
themselves,
Mhm.
and they almost have to have like little quizzes and learn all that stuff before you even start shooting, drawing. I'm guessing like all of the little, what is it when they, and you got to help me out because I don't know film. But when they have like the scenes drawn out and they show like the different camera angles,
Yeah, yeah,
storyboarding. Yeah,
storyboard,
yeah.
and also like a shot list and everything. Yeah,
Yep.
so it's like I made them do all of that, and
Oh.
that took like a week, but it's like it's weird because since there's not a set curriculum in
Hmm.
teaching drama, you really have to because you can teach too much. You can be too long-winded, and kids will be like, "Nah," because with cell phones now, I know we've talked about this, but especially with like TikTok, because they haven't banned phones from school. So kids are constantly doing this, like in the hallway. They're constantly like swiping. And then even they start to look at you. Like if you're saying something they don't like, they're like, he won't get out of my algorithm. Like that's the way
Hmm.
they look at like you. So it's like if you're not super entertaining, it really is kind of like stand up. I remember Colin Quinn
Yeah.
said you get in stand up, he said you have, I think he said seven. This was
If
when
you're famous,
if you're
they give
famous, he
you,
goes 7 minutes of grace. He goes, if Jack Nicholson came up there and he just started sucking, at first they'd be enamored with the fact that it's Jack Nicholson. And then after that, they'd be like, all right, Jack, you're getting kind of stale. Get out of here. It's the same thing with kids, but 7 minutes of grace is not what they give you. They give you 7 seconds of grace.
yeah,
You have to, yeah.
one of the things too that like I've noticed is that, and I'm doing it a little bit more with some of my classes
Hmm.
that I know can handle it. I'm breaking things up and doing more elbow partner stuff. Hey, okay,
Yeah.
there's 4 questions here. Question number one, everyone on the left hand side, you're doing question one. Everyone on the right hand side doing question two. So you need to do it independently, then write a sentence, and then when you're done, you're going to take turns sharing your work with the person next to you.
Uh-huh.
And then I go through afterwards and I'm pulling random kids and their answers. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
giving them that little built-in talk time, because I mean, I don't know how long your periods are. Ours are an hour and
3 to 4 days. Sorry, that was
hour.
a stupid, cheesy joke.
What would you say?
I said, I don't know how long your periods are, and I go 3 to 4 days. Just stupid joke. I'm sorry.
It's so funny that I
So
didn't
stupid.
I didn't even have time to register
Yeah,
it.
that was
That shows you that
insane.
it's Friday.
Yeah, I know. After Friday, you're like, yeah, you're completely out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then but having like built-in little talk time, a lot of the time it's just a break for them when
Uh-huh. Yeah, you do have to give them that
while they're working,
ability.
productive
work.
break time.
Right. You do have to give them that ability to work together. And that's kind of where I've been, what I've been doing, because like I realize that um I have to go up there, I have to explain to them, and I have to get them to be quiet. And dude, this year, I've mentioned this in the podcast so many times. I didn't realize how abnormal this was, but I have like almost 40 kids in all my classes. And then I talked to the previous drama teacher.
You're teaching PE at that point.
Right. And trying to get them to like teach them how to yes and like how to teaching them acting skills. But obviously, I'm not going up there and being like master thespian. But it's funny because the band, like in band class, which is also an elective, they have like 50 kids in some of those classes. But what's different about band is we talked about this, but everybody's playing along. And if somebody gets out of line, there's like a public shaming that kids feel. They don't want to play the flute really bad because everybody's going to be like, who's doing that? With drama, it's a little more abstract. And so it's easier for kids to act up. But one of the band teachers, the dude is from Turkey. He was like a concert. He makes like a lot of money just doing like classical music. He used to travel around the world, and then he was like, I'm going to teach because I can't travel like I used to, because he's a little older now. But he's from Turkey, and this dude sounds like a mobster. And he was like, do not let them walk all over you like this. And he throws kids out of his class. And he'd be like, you do not belong in this class. He goes, if you're going to goof off in my class, he goes, we do not want you here. But it's like the office has to talk to him and be like, dude, this is public school. This isn't Yale. You can't just like.
This isn't a private school, yeah.
Right. And it's just funny about something about a guy who sounds like he cement blocks people's feet teaching band.
Yeah.
Like how kids how to play clarinet.
I love seeing, I've also loved seeing just the difference in people that come from other countries
Mm-hmm.
and not understanding that, like, I've seen this multiple times, how public schools, what kids can get away with versus public schools and theirs.
Public. Yeah.
And
In
even though it's public, right?
Uh-huh.
They're like, yeah, I went to public school, but then here in the United States or maybe LAUSD, seeing the behavior, it drives, oh my God, no one gets more like, what the hell is going on than usually someone that's immigrated to this country.
Dude, 1,000%. And it's because there is more of a value on education other places. And it's interesting because like this kid who I lowered his grade for talking too much, like the kid I mentioned, he acted like I froze his assets, whenever I like lowered his grade to a B. And he's like, this is going to mess up my GPA. And so today he was like trying to negotiate with me like a lawyer. He's like, what do you say that I get like some extra credit? And I was like, maybe. If you stop like rolling up pieces of paper and hitting people on the back of the head with it, maybe you can get extra credit.
Yeah. Or how about you just stop doing all the things
that make you.
Yes. Can you stop being you? Let's work on that.
Yeah.
And then point to another kid. Be like him.
Be like him. It's just the kid that's sitting in the corner with no personality.
Yeah.
Like that kid is the one that it's unfortunate because like sometimes my favorite students in drama class are the ones who drive me the craziest. Like there's this kid, I almost said his name, but I can't. He's a chubby kid. I love this kid. He was selling Chick-fil-A sauce to people at recess.
Oh,
and then I was like,
entrepreneur.
Dude, Bill Gates Jr., or Dan Cathy, I should say. Mm-hmm. He's Dan Cathy's long, lost relative. But he was like filling up like cups and like selling them to people. And then I caught him in the back of the class. He was squirting it in his mouth. I was like, dude, look, you can't get high on your own supply, buddy. Like if you're going to sell this, you can't be putting your mouth on the condiments that you're selling to people. And he was like, and I knew it because it was making like rabid fart noises. It's like, and he was squirting it in his mouth. And then I was just like,
I'm just
"Ugh."
picturing. Do you remember the movie Goonies with Chunk, and
Been
he's
so long since I've
walking
seen it.
around with I think it was whipped cream
Yeah, just squirting his mouth.
squirting in his mouth.
That's what this kid does, and he's got a little bit of a speech impediment. He's so cute. He's got a little bit of a speech impediment, but he has no fear of people. And he's not a bully, he's not mean, but he will clap back. He'll clap back if somebody does something to him. Some girl said something sassy to him. He's like, "I don't like you. I don't even know your name." He goes, "You wear too much makeup." He's like, "You look like the clown It."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, "Hey, you can't talk like that to people." But she was messing with him, and he's like really quick. And I told him one day, I go, "Dude, I think you're really funny." And I wanted to like plant that seed. I don't ever wish for anybody to become a stand-up comic
Mm-hmm.
because we both do that, and it's probably not the best path to be like molding the future youth into.
Oh, I wouldn't even.
You wouldn't think of it that way?
Nah,
I would.
anything that someone wants to explore,
Okay.
I want them to explore.
I don't want them to not do it, but I know all the trapping. I love that I'm a stand-up, but the trappings of it. So I just told him, I'm like, "Dude, I want you to research Will Ferrell, Jim Carrey, and then I forget who else. I think I told him Chris Farley, because this is technically before his time." And then he went home researching. He's like, "They're kind of funny." And then I was like, "Okay, never
Yeah.
mind."
Yeah.
I was like, "Who do you think's funny?" Like, Fart Master
It's probably
67
it's
on
probably some
TikTok or something.
TikTok star.
100%, dude. Which leads us kind of into what we were going to talk about today, which was classroom management. So this is kind of our chalkboard talk, if you will,
Ooh,
for the day. You
look at
know,
that.
they can't see it, but
They-
it says the teacher's lounge right above us, guys. So,
Yeah.
little fun fact. Classroom management. I will let you kick it off because you're the pro in this. I think where I've screwed up this year in classroom management is there's a little bit of entitlement that you get for doing stand up for so long. Like, you go into a room full of people when there's a gigantic game going on. Let's say like
Mhm.
we do stand up at crazy places. Let's say there's a Buffalo Wild Wings. Everybody's got buffalo sauce all over their plaid shirt. And then we're like, "You're going to pay attention to me." And that's what what we've done for years. With teaching, it's kind of like being in the Buffalo Wild Wings where everybody's watching the game and they don't care what you're saying. But I would say even more so at certain schools.
Hmm.
So what does a teacher do? How do they walk in on the first day and just really how do they take control of the class without being an authoritarian that makes children hate you?
Oh, I think the simplest thing is you don't even let them into the classroom
Yeah, you just lock
until
them outside.
lock them outside, and you actually just
Wait, are you being serious?
no,
I was like, I don't know.
no, you stand outside
Uh-huh.
right at the classroom, have them line up properly,
Uh-huh.
and you never let kids, middle school kids, just come in to a classroom until I would say the end of October, maybe early November, but it also depends on the class. Like, I have classes, they'll never be able to walk in by themselves because they can't regulate their own behavior.
Dude, that
Right?
drives
So
me so crazy. I know
you
it
have
shouldn't
to
bother me, but it
so
bothers me.
the thing is, you have to make them stand, right? Line up. You're quiet before you go in.
Yeah.
And then at first, I always started off very simply of like, people that talk are coming back for lunch.
I think I just
When we
don't want
come
to be
back,
around them at lunchtime.
yeah.
That's my biggest problem.
But
Like,
I found that once you really enforce, so the thing, most people, just like parents out there, and if you're a parent, you're listening, you have to enforce the consequences. You can't give in.
raise your kids right, guys. When I was we're not going to go on a whole detour here, but whenever I was subbing, I remember when I was teaching TK. This is heartbreaking in the reality, but on paper it just sounds like a goofy joke, and it's funny saying it out loud, but it's sad for the reality of that kid. But the thing is when I was substituting for TK, which is before kindergarten, people like the parents would be, some of the parents would be like, "Yeah, why isn't my son potty trained?" And because it's your job, Earl.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mm.
your job to potty train your kid. Like, you don't just drop them off at LAUSD and have them potty. Like,
Yeah.
That's crazy. So that's kind of what you're dealing with even at a later age, not potty training, obviously, but like certain parents who don't want to necessarily, without like, yeah. And I get it. Not everybody's a great parent. It's
Yeah,
hard.
but what I'm not really saying that. I guess what I'm just saying is like if you have most people, I think it's very easy to get you're tired from work. Like we're tired talking
Mhm.
to 30 kids or 25 kids per class. It gets very easy to not enforce your consequences or have empty threats. So so you have to always follow through. And if you follow through with them all the time, 100%, meaning if a kid owes you 15 minutes of intervention to do
Mhm.
iReady, you start your clock. You do 15 minutes exactly. You never let them leave early, right? You never keep them. So they know that you don't mess around, but they're going to have to serve. They can't get out of it. Like kid will, Mr. Dunham, well, can I come in if I help you clean the classroom? Can I go early? No, you're not getting out of this because they've gone and done that. And now they're there. Okay, well, I'm now here for 3 minutes. Nope, you're here for 15 minutes. And I'm always doing stuff that's productive. So usually the kids that are causing problems, they're never doing like the iReady work.
Yeah, dude. I
So
think
you just have them do that. But I
you
would
were
say,
teaching elementary before middle school.
yes.
Do you think that prepped you for middle school? What was it
No,
like?
nothing prepares you for the hell that is middle
Dude,
school.
middle school is
hellscape.
such a crazy age. Like, like there's sometimes to where like my eyes just pop out of my head. I go, there was one day I just go, why? Why? Because it's like you have a loss for words, and it's like it's such a crazy age to relate to, and I actually like my classes. I actually like the kids, but that's the thing. Your first year teaching middle school, did you find that it was kind of hard? Um it was the hardest year, like in terms, like did you find your
For
groove right away, like
me,
making them line up, all these things that you did for the other
so for me, I
for the
just for me it was as a sub, right?
uh-huh.
So I made sure that when they came in, that I just said, I would actually say this to them. I would say, hey, my name is Mr. Dunham. I'm not here to get you in trouble, so don't get me in trouble either.
Yeah.
And then I would say, if you have your phones out, I don't care, but you know how to use them properly, right? That was when school, they didn't take away the phones. There was nothing.
Mhm.
So kids were cool enough, and I never had a problem with this. I've never videotaping, never recording, never taken a picture, right? And then the same thing, I used to be like, if you do your work, great, I'm here to help you.
Uh-huh.
But if you decide that you don't want to do your work, you can't take away from other people. And most of the time, it was pretty cool. But it's just the one thing that you quickly learn is, well, two things. Very kids with behavior problems will not change their behavior if you raise your voice.
Yeah, that's what I
They never
found
will.
out. They
And
don't.
guess what? They actually want that. Every kid wants the same
A
thing.
lot of teachers told me
Attention.
that. They're
It's
like,
just
dude,
attention.
they like to see you lose your cool sometimes. They like to
Because
see you
it's
go
negative
nut.
attention. So you can either get positive attention, like, hey, I did all my work. Look at this. Like I got sixth graders that'll come up, Mr. Dunham,
Uh-huh.
look at this. I got a 63 out of my 65 on my speed test. I'm like, yeah, Bob, that requires work. And a kid that can't get that, they're going to get a weird version of attention, negative attention. So they'll go and they'll do whatever they want, and then you pay attention to them.
Right. One
But
thing
like
that
yeah, like I told you, it's like I'll actually say to the kids, you come in, you do stuff wrong. You're acting poorly or whatever all the time. It's almost like you want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
And they go, no, I don't want to hang out with you. I go,
yeah, I do. You're
you
obsessed with
say
hanging out with
that,
me.
but your actions, and then I'm going to start calling you my BFF if we're in the halls. Like, what's up? You know what I mean? Because that's
Yeah.
how much you want to hang out with me.
Dude, it's funny because like kids, because they do like me, like
Yeah.
I'm like I'm like the fun teacher because it's drama, and it's like I'm sarcastic with them, and I bust their chops a little bit, nothing too crazy, but they like me, but then they get like comfortable around you. So one of the kids goes, "What's up, Jonesy?" And I go, "Look, I really don't care if you call me that, but I go, you get one Jonesy a day. I go, if you say it more than once, I go, I'm knocking 20 points off. Because I don't want it to
Yeah.
be like a normal thing. I go, are you capable of doing that? And then he goes, yeah, Jonesy. And I go, you just lost 20 points. And
Mm.
then he goes, and then he was like that. But then he gets it, because like the reason why I do that, and some people would be like, oh, that sounds like kind of harsh. But the thing is if you keep going with that, what happens is it starts putting feet on the desk.
100%.
Then it starts eating Cheetos. Then it starts like yelling out like stuff in your classrooms. Like there's a kid that just yells out Haktua for no reason. I go, hey, you're not going to talk that way. And then I was like, yeah, they'll just be like, Diddy.
Yep.
And then it's like, one of the kids, they were just yelling that out in the classroom. I go, why are you guys obsessed with him? They go, he's obsessed with us, sir. And then I go, all right. I go, that's funny. I go, but also like, shut up. You can't talk that way. I didn't say shut up, but I was like, no. And so the thing is sometimes the kids are funny. Usually they don't say anything that's that like crazy, but it's like, you don't want them getting too comfortable, because what happens is they start being disrespectful. They start saying crazy stuff, because they're online literally all day long. So they just parrot all the worst stuff in society. So you have to like have like, it's that balance between being the cool teacher, but also like enforcing like respect, you know?
Yeah.
Because like otherwise they'll just walk all over you. You
Oh
know?
yeah. So every year there's going to be, especially like I'll use myself as an example, is the older I get, clearly receding hairline, right?
Uh-huh.
So the forehead just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
And always every year there's one kid that tries to make a joke, and I just look at him and go, you just lost your lunch.
It's so funny. Just no emotion. You just lost your lunch.
Yep. And then now boys respond to this in a way that no one could even imagine. You ready? Then when they drop by, I go, let me ask you something. Do you want to be a boy or a man? And they're like,
I want to be a man.
I want to be a man. I go, okay, well, I'm going to tell you how men interact with other men. Right? And I go, what you did, no man would go and do that to another man unless he's really good friends with them. So when you do stuff like that, you're acting like a boy, immature.
And does it work?
Oh yeah. Then the kids never, for me, the kids, that kid will end up seeing me in the halls later on. I go, you'll always see I'm cool with you. And that kid will be like, what's up, Mr. Dunham? You know?
Yeah, it's weird, dude. A lot of, because kids, they do need that like stern talking to. Sometimes the respect does come, because it's like, I think the reputation that I've gotten as like a first year teacher, like he's super, super cool. But if you don't listen to him, he can be like, one girl goes, she was like, you're like the coolest, nicest teacher. She goes, but you're also really mean. Because what I started doing was I just started calling their parents. And I go, anybody who talks after I'm talking right now, I go, I'm calling your parents. I go, because you guys have been loud all day. And then they're like, blah, 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 blah. And then one girl just took out food, like when she knows I don't like food. And I go, calling your mom right now.
Yep.
And then I go, is this your mom's name? And I just stepped out in the hallway and called her. And then like, after I like walked in, she was like, oh my gosh. It's like, cause you have to have that thing to where they're like, I'm not your buddy. I am your 100%. Teacher. You know, I'm cool with you. I like you, but I'm not your buddy.
And that's what I think, when people talk about classroom management, they go,
Uh-huh.
okay, what kind of rules and procedures
Yeah, and
do
it's
I need?
just like,
And I go, no. Real classroom management is psychological.
Yeah, 1,000%. And it's also
because you can have all the rules, the procedures and all that, but like when they truly understand, oh my God, this guy is cool, but he doesn't mess around.
Yeah, they have to see that about you.
Yeah. And that's why people walk into my room and they go, there was a one-on-one. She goes, I can't believe, because she has to follow the same girl. But that girl has a lot of the same classes with these kids that are in the homeroom.
Right.
And she goes, I can't believe how quiet your room is. She goes, these kids really respect you and follow you.
Yeah,
and
dude.
Once again, I think it's also because they know that,
you enforce the rules.
But I'm also,
but you're also cool
about it. And
yeah, man. And you know what's cool about, so it's like first year teaching, and somebody told me, they're like, you have really good classroom management skills, which made me feel, it was actually the dean. She goes, you actually look like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, cool. I was like, because this is my first year teaching. It's not my first year, like I did after school. I did subbing. But with subbing, you're just a security guard.
That's it.
That's it. Like remember I was like, I can't get these kids to do their work. And you're like, don't even worry about it. Like it was like
Yeah.
if you're like a sub, you're a stepdad for hire. They shine the bat light and
If
then
any- if
you
it-
accept it or you don't accept it. You
We
put
used
on
to-
your boots. you
yeah,
know?
we-
like that's it.
We would look at it as subs. Like sometimes I would hear teachers, the sub didn't get all the work I got done.
Yeah, it's like
Is your room not destroyed? Then guess
Then
what? The
good.
sub did a great
The
job.
sub did a great job. Exactly. And the thing that I like about like teaching though, like this whole topic, classroom management, what teaching teaches you how to do is it teaches you how to structure your life in a very profound way. Because like I used to read a ton of self-help books. I mean, like I'm like a big self-help junkie.
Yeah, you
But
have
one
that
of the-
that secret button that
You secret
reveals
button and
that-
it just turns around and then it's like this guy's a mass murderer. It's like he's got 51 Tony Robbins books.
I was going to say I didn't know Tony Robbins wrote that many.
I'm like,
books.
these are the secret books. I'm like, you only if you get into Tony's super secret club. But dude, I used to read like a self-help book. Like my library looks like a very unhinged place. Like if a crazy person like Jeffrey Dahmer broke into my apartment, he's like, I'm gonna leave this guy alone. He's barely hanging on by a thread, looking at my bookshelf. But
he leaves you a note. I hope it works out.
yeah, he's like, dude, he was like, you look like you're really trying to improve your life. I'm not gonna eat you. I'm gonna leave you alone.
Yeah.
But what's crazy about this whole thing, man, is with teaching, it teaches you boundaries
Mhm.
and to be impeccable with your word. And like doing something and really following through, doing what you say you're going to do. And the reason why it teaches you in such a perfect way is because if you're not impeccable with your word as a teacher, you will suffer for it. Your classroom will be crazy. Your life will be hard.
Yes.
Everything transpires because you're with kids for 8 hours a day. And if you're with kids for that long, because kids test your boundaries anyways. Everybody always says, hey, if you really, really want to, if you really, really want to like have your boundaries tested, have kids. Get married, have kids.
Yeah.
And so people are always like this, but it's like, it's the truth because kids will test your boundaries. Your boundaries will get tested in marriage and everything. And what it teaches you to do with running a classroom is you were literally learning to say, I remember you told me at the beginning of the year, I was getting really annoyed with these kids. And I was like, I like them, but I'm getting annoyed. You're like, you can't get emotional about it. What you told me was you go, tell them what the rules are and enforce it. Never yell. Just be like, this is what's going to happen if you don't do this. I will fill in the blank. So I will knock 20 points off your grade. I will make you come in for lunch. I will do this. And you go and you just have to enforce it and not bend with it. But dude, that's psychological training, not just for them, but for yourself.
Yeah.
Because all of life is people trying to sell you shit that you don't need all day long, whether it's ideas that don't belong to you or whether it's just products that don't belong to you. And you have to be like, no. And
Yeah, you
so many people in our culture just can't say
Think
no.
about
And I'm good at
this.
saying no,
Yeah.
but it's like enhancing my ability to be like, absolutely not. And putting everything, like my boundaries are just getting so much stronger from teaching.
I think also
It's crazy.
It's weird. The older I've gotten, I look at life or look at value systems, right?
Hmm.
That I do not care where the value comes from. Is it a functional or dysfunctional one? Right?
Hmm.
And
What do you mean by that? You don't care where it comes from? Is it a
so
functional
it could
or
be,
dysfunctional
well,
one?
what I mean by that
Like,
is that we tend to look at certain things as like a liberal value, right? Or a conservative value. I am a registered independent. I don't care where the value comes from. I care about
If
the
it's
outcome.
functionality.
It
It's
functions
functionality.
and it produces the best outcomes because that's the one that I want to follow. Now, later on in
Same.
life, like in the future, they may have a different value that is better, right? So it's like I tell the kids that are always losing their their keys, not their keys, their Chromebooks or not
Uh-huh.
charging and all that. I go, when I said, when I go to bed at night, I already have my keys, my car keys in my bag with my wallet. I have my school keys out. I plug my phone in to be charged overnight. I go, I don't do all this because I want to.
It's functional.
It's because, yes, it makes me
It's
a functional
efficient.
human and it's efficient. So
It's yeah, dude. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
and I know that's
you
weird
know?
to look at it and I go, okay, like
Removing the
Republican or
emotion from it.
conservative or liberal, and then get down to that kind of value. But I'm using that as an example
Well,
of
values, it's so funny because it became such a moralistic word, but really all it means is what you value.
yes.
Values. Chris values. Matt values. I value fill in the blank. Adventure, whatever, but it's like kind of going off of that a little bit.
Ooh, here's
What's
another thing before I
interesting.
forget. You ready?
Okay.
So as a teacher, one of the things that I value is a clean classroom, right?
Uh-huh.
All the books look nice, everything, because it just runs better. People walk into my classroom and they're always amazed. There's no garbage on the ground. Or there's like one or two pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I had a sub actually come up to me and say, hey, I'm subbing for so-and-so. There's just garbage everywhere on this ground. And I go, yeah. And then I go, look at mine. Like, you know what? I swept today. I was sweeping actually dirt because the kids have been walking into mud and then bringing it into the
Yeah,
classroom.
they bring it in.
But the thing is like, I think that if you have all of that, and I try to instill some of that, in the kids, because I know that they're good values to have. And it's not that it's easy to do. Bro, you know what's easier? Sitting on a couch, just hot Cheetos.
Dude, I hate
And-
hot Cheetos. After teaching middle school,
and
if I
just-
could bankrupt the Cheeto company, I don't know who owns it, Coca-Cola or whatever. Like if I was president of the United States after teaching, I would find every Cheeto plant and shut it down.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, you guys are making a mess in middle schools across America.
Yeah. So
Literally.
yeah, dude. And all of this stuff, it's like,
Yeah.
the stuff that produces the best outcomes is, it doesn't mean that it's easy. We're lucky when we come across something and it like something is easy to do and it produces the best outcomes.
Okay, so you're talking about efficiency. You're talking about what works, right? You're talking
And
about
I'm in the
something
classroom
in a
too.
very and you've been in the classroom for a very long time. You're talking about something that these are the rules. This is how I enforce. This is it. So what's interesting is I was talking to one of the other teachers who's also an actor. He's the band teacher,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Stuff bothers me." Now I never get knocked off my center with it, but stuff bothers me. And before I taught, I was trained as an actor. I did a lot of like acting training. I've been acting since I've been a kid. And what they teach you in acting as you get like deep into acting, like you get like into these like crazy like method classes and stuff. I studied Meisner for 2 years. And then that was the thing that really gripped me, that changed my life in acting. The reason why I'm talking about this is they teach you to take everything personally. So in Meisner, that you do these exercises, and then when you start taking stuff personally that the other person is saying, you're not even in the script, they'll be like, go into the script. And then now you have a point of view and you do the script, right?
Mhm.
And there's like acting places like in New York called Circle in the Square, to where they get like people really riled up and they'll like insult the actors, right? And they're like, go into it. So after a while, your body starts like getting into this habit of acting, right? And you start taking everything personal. Well, an acting coach said a long time ago, he goes, this is great for your acting. He goes, but it's terrible for your personal life. And then so what I've done as an actor, because acting is so ingrained in me, it's very easy for me to get into an acting headspace and get annoyed and like be like, why? And even as a comic, sometimes my point of view is stuff that bothers me.
Yeah.
So it's like the Cheetos, the everything you write from this
It's
place.
like,
And so it's
yeah.
hard to just go in and shut that side of your brain off. Now, I don't lose my cool. I know how to conduct myself.
Mm.
I care about the kids. I know they're kids, but there's still that little pilot light that's like, when I see like a
Oh.
Cheeto bag on the ground, it's like,
100%.
that's going nuts, and I'm like losing my mind a little bit.
But
You know,
in those moments, just remind yourself, like, because that'll never end. That'll never end.
it won't because it's so deep in
Well,
me.
it's not
to
just
be
that.
way.
The activating event, if you want to call it, the Cheetos bag, whatever it is, in the
Yeah.
future, it's not a Cheetos bag, it's something else. That will never change. So say you're walking into a job for the next 20 years, and the behaviors that you're going to see are going to be the same ones every year. Like I was telling this kid that was acting up at the beginning of the year, I go, everything that you're doing, I've seen it before. You're not special. You just went by a different name last year. And I go, and next year there's going to be a kid that does the same exact things. He's just going to have a different name.
Yeah, dude, it's the
So you
same
gotta get-
archetype.
Yeah. So you got to
Yeah.
get used to, I think, of and reminding yourself to let it go.
And you have to the big thing too about teaching is like going back to the classroom management thing. You have to set boundaries. You got to do that because what happens is like nobody respects a nice guy. They respect a kind person who treats people right and who treats people fairly.
Empathetic.
Empathetic, kind, you know how to treat people. You don't mistreat people. Like kindness is awesome.
Yeah.
You should be kind. But niceness in terms of like shoving stuff down and not doing that. Nobody respects a nice person. And what happens with nice people, especially like teachers growing up, like
They get
looking
run
back,
over.
they get run over and then they get resentful. And then they get like, and then they have like momentary outbursts and because they don't enforce, we're always training people how to treat us. So it's like, I sound like Dr. Phil. Like, so in the classroom, you have to train the kids how to treat you. So I do think that there is something to be learned. Like if there could be like a little mini teaching boot camp just for people. Cause it's like, I like Ellen DeGeneres. I do. I think that she was a funny stand-up in the 80s. I haven't seen her new specials or whatever, but
She had that bit about
I like
calling
Ellen.
God. That was like, that made her famous.
Ellen was a great writer, right? A great comedian. I found her funny and plus like likable. Ellen was very likable. But then there was this whole thing that came out that's like Ellen was like mistreating her staff. I'm just laughing because it's funny to picture Ellen picking up writers and like breaking them over her back like, this is the Ellen show. And it's just crazy to imagine Ellen but that's what happens to like nice people. And so going back to the classroom, if you are perpetually nice and you're just letting kids like, oh, look, Billy's marking all over the table. You are a ticking time bomb and you're waiting to snap. And so day in, day out, like you said, enforcing those rules allows you to not get emotional and blow up on the kids and yell at them, which is not constructive. It's also not good to do, but it allows you to do that because every day you're able to not let this stuff build up. But the more you let it slide, the angrier you get and the worse the behavior becomes in the classroom.
And I think that
and then before you know it, they're drawing on the walls.
And I
then
think
you're
that
like,
every person is, human. So that's definitely going to pop up from time to time.
You'll get annoyed, of course, but
because I deal with a lot more extreme behaviors at this school than my previous school.
Yeah,
And
this
so
school is a tough school
was-
that I teach at too.
Yeah, so that was. But the thing is, as a sub, I was always usually at even worse schools with behavior. But I've had to like relearn so much stuff, or how about this? Learn new things. And what I mean by that is like, you're never, ever, 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 it maybe once a year you could change one kid, their behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other kid, you never.
Dude, it's kind of like,
So if that's the case, that's what I mean by reality, right? Everything out there, it's almost like I guess in a way, in a stoic way of looking at stuff.
it is
like,
stoicism.
I completely let go and surrender to the idea that everything outside of me is out of my control.
It's a lesson in
So-
self-mastery. I'd almost like to take like Buddhist monks in Tibet who've been meditating their whole life and put them in LAUSD middle school, and they'd probably, all that meditation would go out the window. Probably they'd be like tearing their cloaks.
You know,
and
it was
stuff.
actually really cool. Is
like-
like since we're talking about like the Stoics, or
There's
Buddhism or whatever.
a new uprising in
Do you-
Stoicism. People are really
Yeah, do you
interested in it
you
because we
remember
are
that-
overstimulated.
Remember that old like Gandhi quote? be the change you want to see in the
See in the
world.
world, yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. It drove the point to me of like why you always got to point the finger at yourself. Is this kid, I was talking to him, I was subbing at Bernstein High School, and it was PE. And him and I were just chatting. And I mentioned that quote to him, and we start talking. He's like, yeah, mister. He's like, because see, the thing is, he's like, if you're changing, right, then the world does change because you're part of the world.
And you're like, bingo.
And then he's like, and the great thing is even if you mess up, like, that's cool because one of the things you want to see in the world is forgiveness. And I went, damn, dude. I wonder where that kid is. I wish I could remember his name or whatever, but it was one of the coolest conversations.
It's always cool too when you see those kids that are so elevated, and maturity comes through experience. And sometimes kids don't have the best experience. But what's so cool is like the thing that makes teaching so awesome is when you have that bond with certain students that are just like, oh, dude, this kid's a really, really smart kid, or he has like a lot of potential. Um, there was a kid today who was talking about how he was like, I really want to direct. And then he was like, and when this kid made a storyboard, he knew exactly what to do. He knew what an OTS was. And I go, have you done this before? He's like, no. He's like, I just like to read up on this kind of stuff. He was just interested. He's an 8th grader, but he's so smart. And I go, what do you like better? Do you like directing or do you like acting better? Because we did these short films and he just wanted to direct. He didn't want to act in it. He goes, well, he goes, I like acting, but I don't like my side profile. And I started laughing. I go, dude, you sound like an actor. Because it's like, that's literally what it is. But like his level of intelligence to even like know, like in 8th grade, be like, a lot of people would be like, no, I don't like acting. You know what I mean? Like that's such an intelligent comment because you have the awareness to be like, I actually like acting, but I don't like the way I look from the side. Like that's a level of awareness that somebody, and I know this sounds like such a small trivial thing. Like what does that have to do with anything?
No, it sounds like he'd be a great actor because he's insecure about his
and
looks.
It would drive him to go to the top. Yeah, because that's what all actors and comedians are driven by,
or just people in general.
People, yeah, everybody. Nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to be ostracized from the tribe.
Actually, not to change the subject, but thinking about insecurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? I know for me, what drove me into comedy
was darkness.
Actually, the insecurity is I wanted my voice to be heard and to be heard correctly.
I think that's the Batman Genesis story of every comic that you just said right there. And there's different levels, different insecurities, but that is everything that makes someone want to be a comic. What you just said.
Because I felt like when I would listen to, and I thought it was very cool that as long as you made people laugh, that they would listen to your point of view. So I always thought it was really cool that you're rewarding people. They get rewarded for listening to your opinions on stuff, like your viewpoint, instead of just letting someone unless someone just go on and on without any,
Well, comedy is a way to get your view across by giving it, making it into a dessert, because a lot of times people don't care about your view. They don't care about what you're saying, but if it's wrapped in a joke, it's got a bow around it. It's
a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go.
Yeah, it makes medicine good. Yeah, I'm all like, it's sugar.
It's Friday.
It's yours around. Yeah, so classroom management is important. It can also help you with boundaries. That's why you should sign up for our master class on classroom management. We should do a master class.
If you guys can't tell, Matt's really big right now. I could tell with the boundary thing. And that's probably something that in your own life, for me, it's more about letting go, like never holding on to anything.
I think I bring up the boundary thing, not because I've always been very connected to myself and I've known what I want and what I like and what I'm very specific, but I've also had a lot of compassion for people my whole life. And my compassion for people, this is going to sound bad, but it's also gotten me in trouble. because I look for the best in a lot of people. It's not because I have a problem setting a boundary and telling people no, because I
Mhm.
will. It's because a lot of times I see people clearly and I'll be like, I can see that that person has something going on inside of them. So I'm going to be very careful with how I deal with them. And that's a good thing, right? But the thing is you have to trust that people are capable of taking care of themselves. You can't take care of people.
And do you feel
And
like middle
so,
school kids can take care of themselves,
hell
man?
no. Hell no. Hell no. But the thing is that's why I'm saying I'm learning it, because
Yeah.
there are people, the people that I have a lot of compassion for are people that cannot take care of themselves. Like, dude, here's a good example. I have a soft spot for people who are in poverty, who can't, or because I've struggled with addiction, not with drugs, but with other things. And because I've struggled with addiction, I have a soft spot for people who have that thing, right? So if I see like homeless people on the street, I'll be like, I'll give them $5 if I have it. You know, I had to stop doing that because it was like I was doing it too much, but I'll give them like $5 if I have it. But then,
Back in my day, it was a
yeah, back in my
quarter.
day, you make them wash your windows, you know? But like, I'll do that. But then like, there was a point where on Facebook, somebody like when people would like send out, you know, there's like a Nigerian prince or something that's like, help me build this village. And you're like, sure thing, Nabil, you know, and then you'll just give them money. But like, there was a point where, there was this missions thing to where they were like, these kids are starving, as these missionaries
Mhm.
that were feeding these kids, and they started sending me photos. I was like, oh my gosh. And I sent them money, and then I reached out to my friend who actually does do that kind of stuff, and I was like, hey, if they don't have an organization, I sent this over Facebook, but they sent me pictures like right away. He goes, block them. And then like I was like, okay. And so that's an example of over a little bit of over compassion. You're giving, I probably gave it to a guy who's got like, you know, who's just selling iPhones in
Do
the
you know how
park.
that's going to
You
help
know what
you,
I'm saying?
man? Is, when you
Like,
establish your boundaries, right? And I'm going to use
right.
this, is that with certain classes, what you're going to find is that you establish your boundaries. There's an old saying, don't smile until Christmas, right? Or after Christmas or whatever.
Yeah.
And it really, I think if you get deep down to what it's saying is, don't give any leeway on anything for a while, because then the kids' routines, they know what to expect. They meet your expectations, your standards, and all
Don't
that.
loosen up the ropes until they meet your expectations and
Yep.
standards.
And then I think that for you, how that's going to be a very good thing of like, hey, I need to have my boundaries, right? And then you're going to find that that compassionate side of you is going to be able to come out. Maybe not with some classes, because there's going to be classes. My God, dude, one of my favorite classes this year. I love them to pieces when it comes to actually talking in a productive way about the subjects, right?
Mhm.
Whatever we're learning, the lesson. But their ability to regulate their own behavior
Dude, that's
is
what
just.
drives me crazy.
And
Is
so I just know it's sad. It's like I look at them and I want to go, guys, I want to give you, I want to let you to just eat if you want in the class. There's some classes that I do. Like I have some 6th grade classes. When I reward them with stuff, I let them eat. Right?
Yeah, no,
But this
I
class,
never let them eat. I
yeah.
take their stuff, and now it's gotten to the point to where I go, if you bring food in my class, I go, I'm
No,
throwing it away.
no.
I throw
I'm
their food in
talking
the
when
trash. No, I know you do.
Okay.
I'm getting flared up now. I'm like, I never let them eat.
It's like,
You'll never eat in my class.
oh, then you
Like,
have
I'm
some.
like,
Then you have some kids
Yeah.
that no matter what, they're going to be. They continue to bring in stuff.
but this is what I'm talking about. Okay, going back to the boundaries thing. I've never been a person that lets people steamroll me. Like I very much am like, I will not let you do this, blah, 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 blah. But my problem is I get like, I almost go into that. Have you seen that picture of Kermit where he's looking in the mirror and then there's like the Sith Lord where he has
Oh,
like the hood
yeah.
over him? Those are like the two sides of me. And I want to not be that crazy anymore, because what happens is I'm so compassionate to people until they think they can do that. And then I turn into like this other person.
Oh,
And then people are scared of me because they think I'm psycho.
and then
And I am a little psycho because like
yeah.
I have two switches. Nicest guy and very mean. And obviously when dealing with kids, I'm not like a monster, but one of the kids told me, they go, Mr. Jones, like I was saying at the beginning, you're the nicest teacher, but you're also really mean. And what she meant was there's no in between. It's like cool, 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 cool. And then, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, I'm calling your parents. And then you have to write me a 5-page essay. And then you have to do, and it's like there's no weaning into it. What it is it's like flipping
I was going
like
to say
that.
you,
And I do that
yeah.
with people too. When people are incredibly disrespectful and they know what they're doing, they've maybe stolen from me, or they've done like, because I'm very nice, and then I flip that side, and then it freaks them out because they think I'm crazy.
Now with kids, can I help
You
you
know?
out with
Yes,
something?
please.
So when you go into the classroom the following year, right?
Uh-huh.
You need to go in with, I'm going to be cool in the sense of I'm not just going to be mean for no reason, right? But you give them no leeway from the start.
That's what I'm gonna do. That's
You
what I'm
have
gonna do.
to. And
Because I didn't
then-
know that. Nobody
Because
taught
then
me
they're
that.
going to be like, he's strict but cool, instead of he's cool but mean. Because you're not actually being mean. But the way that they're interpreting is because you've built that foundation of cool. And
100%.
And really, it's just got to be, he's super strict, but he's cool.
But that's the way you kind of have to
With
be.
kids, it can't regulate like
with
that.
kids,
Yes. With adults, it's different, man. You're
And
just
I
like,
understand my dad
Yeah.
so much more now, dude, because my dad's a very assertive, my word is my bond type guy. And I
Yeah.
used to always, and I learned a lot of that stuff from him whenever like learning, I learned how to set boundaries from my dad, because my dad is like, growing up, he was like, I'm not going to argue with you. He'd be like, no. And then I'd be like, why? He'd be like, because I said so. And like, I'm not saying that's the best way to parent, but I think probably in his mind was, he's like, I'm not going to argue with an 8-year-old, because kids will come up to you and they'll be like, I know you said no food in the class, but Shelly had food last period. And then Ricky had food last period. So is there any way that I can maybe have a little bit of food in here? Because and they'll tell you this run-on sentence that lasts for days. And so like, I understand my dad now, where he's just like, no,
Yep.
no. And then I'm like, okay, I get it. We do got to wrap up here in a second, but let's end on, this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
It was a good conversation.
But I think too, like, if people could walk away with something, is that,
I was going to say, let's wrap up on cafeteria food, but
Yeah,
let's,
but no,
we'll
but
do that
class-
next
no,
week.
no, no, but like-
but classroom management.
but no,
I was like,
to-
what do you think's worse, Salisbury steak or square pizza?
No, but but classroom management starts with the individual. It's more
Uh-huh.
psychological than anything else. All the little routines and the procedures,
Yeah.
you can learn all that stuff from a book, right? But the main thing, I think, the
But
takeaway,
implementing it and getting it in your bones
Number
is something
one,
that you have to do.
having your boundaries, right?
Uh-huh.
In your, or we call them expectations, right?
Expectations and boundaries are the same thing.
Expectations, and enforcing the consequences.
Uh-huh.
And then at the same time, letting all of the misbehavior or whatever roll off you, because it has nothing
that's
to
the
do with you.
self-mastery. And I was talking to my girlfriend about that, and she was like, you know what's really cool about this job? She goes, it's like training for being a good dad. And I thought that was like very, very profound.
You know, that's
Because
actually,
I'm like, I actually do think this is training for being a good dad, because it's like, I remember when I was 26, 27, I saw parents in the airport all the time at LAX. They had those basset hound eyes, and they'd just be pushing the stroller, Night of the Living Dead. And then their mouth, they'd look like Ghostface from Scream. Their mouth would just be like hanging open from not sleeping the night before. And I was like, I'll never have kids. That's like what I thought. I was like, it seems like, but then as you get older and you're like, oh no, I do want kids. And this is like training for, I mentioned on the previous episode, the art teacher at our school, one of the music teacher talked to her and was like, what was childbirth like? And she goes, easier than teaching middle school. And he goes, are you serious? And she goes, yeah. She was like, easier than teaching middle school. So whether that's true or not, giving birth is insanely hard. So not insulting anybody who's given birth. I can't even ever imagine it. But what I will say is it's training ground.
and also
For being a good mother and
yeah.
being a good father.
Well, I think
you know?
too is, and remember how I said functional, dysfunctional values, all of that efficiency is what works and what doesn't work. And I think that when somebody becomes a parent, if they want to do a really good job, right, they have to give up sometimes beliefs that don't work. And
Right. The way this is what my parents did. And it's like, yeah, this is 50 years later, dude.
like some stuff,
Not 50,
well,
hopefully.
some
but
stuff from
it's
the
an old
past
dad.
is great and you need to keep that. And then someone is always going to be trying to sell you on some book on how to be a parent in today's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like some
And it's all
scammer that's cheated on his
it's
wife like 4
all
times.
Theory.
And he's like, yeah.
It's like when you become a teacher, they don't even teach you like any of the actual
Life is the best thing.
Yeah.
And talking to people who have done it, life is the best teacher. There's some stuff, dude. Reading a book helps you to define those ideas, but doing it's the same thing. You can read a million books on doing stand up. It's like until you go out there and you actually perform in a Dairy Queen where the ice cream machine is broken and then there's a guy like detoxing from drugs in the corner and you have to like try to capture that audience. You'll never be able to do it. And like teaching,
Yeah.
you can read all the books on education theory, but until you're in that classroom and you're dealing with all these different personality types of kids, you're never going to be able to do it. But I think the takeaway from today is not to get emotional. Let your rules be known. And people can even take this. This is all like self-help. This is Oprah now. If people can take this. You can take this in your relationship. You can take it in your relationship with your significant other, your dog, your parent, anything.
Yeah, because that's sexy. Hey, baby, we need to talk about boundaries. She's gonna be like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I made some spreadsheets here. And she's like, what are you, Rain Man?
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that the main thing is making your rules known, not getting super bent out of shape, letting them know what they are, enforcing them, and just not being, not getting sucked into the current of what is going on with them, being very calm. And it's a level of self-mastery because you're staying in your center, even when everyone is trying to pull you out
and
of it.
on top
So,
of it, you know what you're actually being,
what?
dude. You're being a role model for the kids,
Teaching them how to regulate their
because
emotions.
most of the kids are not coming from ideal situations, right?
Yahtzee.
So they're not seeing how to act properly. Do you
How to
want to
be
be
a
a boy?
good
Do you want to
person.
be a man? Do you want to be an adult, or do you want to be a kid? You know, and this is what we do.
I like how we're using the boy man analogy because girls are easier in middle school. It's the boys.
Oh, I
that
could
are-
talk to the girls easily, and their behaviors usually
I'll do
change.
same. The girls are usually way better in middle school. It's like the boys. It's like, hey, we don't blow up things in here. We don't do it's like we don't open up the ducts of the ceiling and crawl through the vents. We don't do that.
Yep.
You know. But we're gonna wrap up on that, guys. Zoe is not here this weekend. He was out of town, but he's gonna be back this next week, and we hope you guys are enjoying the Teachers Lounge. This is an unadulterated conversation of two teachers speaking our truth.
Oh my God.
I hate it when people say that.
Oh.
Like, did you speak your truth? It's like, yeah, what if your truth is eating people?
Matt and I are gonna have a talk about boundaries after this.
Yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna swing together.
Some
We're gonna swing
vegan
some-
food and talk.
Yeah, we're gonna
about
get some
boundaries.
sorbet, not ice cream sorbet. All right, guys. Bye.
Peace.